Hello, you amazing people out there, and welcome to the Amazing Action Comics podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
It's another week, bro. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I gotta say, I'm terrified though, Angel. I'm a little
Why?
terrified. Well, not because of Halloween, which is Thursday. It's election season. I want it to end. I just want to be able to flip to the end of the book to see who wins but I mean, I can't because life is not a comic book. And yet we're able to do that, or whoever does wind up winning. We now have 4 more years of storyline, all building to another event in 4 years, because real life is like a fucking comic book now.
Yes. And I'm trying to avoid all of it. So
go out and vote at least.
Go out and vote, but no politic talk at all. Because
I don't care who you vote for, just vote.
Just vote. Yeah. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's crazy because it's still warm outside.
Right.
It's almost November.
Right. Halloween.
I'm still wearing shorts.
Thursday's going to be warm for Halloween, I think.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 79, almost 80 degrees.
You know what was the worst when we were growing up, and we got these great, Ben Cooper Halloween costumes, the big vinyl
with the
plastic mask. And it was always so cold, 2 things inevitably would happen. You'd have to wear your winter jacket over your costume.
Yep.
No one could see the Spider-Man or the Fonzie or whatever it was you were going for. And then those masks, the condensation would always build up in the mask, and you just it was a mess under there.
Yes, it was. And I just remember, I have fond memories of 2 things. So we have the 5 senses. 2 of them were always going wild. One was the smell, because the mask, just that plastic vinyl-y smell, that you were just getting high off of whatever lead was in there. And then 2, the sound of everybody just walking in the hallway with the vinyl sound. Yeah.
Yep.
We've come a long way. All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Amazing Action Comics podcast. This is our indie comic review. This is where John and I take our 2 cents and just put them on to the reads of the week prior. This is episode 139. Before we hop into it, just a couple of quick things, some news tidbits, some stuff you've heard. Dude, finally done. Script done for Project Shatterbreed #1 reboots. It's going to the editor now, who's going to take a look and say, hey, you don't spell cat with 2 T's. And then it's going to come back. Once that comes back from the editor, then it goes right to the artist. We're actually going to have Randy Meyer, who did issue, I want to say 5. He did the cover of issue 5 from the previous series, and is working on the 2nd volume now. So I dig his art for this particular book, just the way he storytells, and I think his art style fits sort of like what Justin wants to do with Project Shatterbreed. There's that line of, this scary werewolf, but then there's also this really good action that he draws and stuff like that. So really excited to have him on the book. So I would say probably within the next week or 2, it should be pencils to paper on that. Yeah, I'm just happy to get the script over with. That's usually the hardest part. Doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be finished, people. Just needs to be finished. Again, just a reminder, March of next year, March 15th to be exact, I'm going to be over at the IC3, which is the Indie Comics Creator Con. That's going to be held over at Southern Connecticut State University. It's an all-day thing. I believe this is their 2nd annual crack at this. So they did so well last year. I believe it's going to be even bigger next year. So really looking forward to that. Last but not least, we spoke a little bit about this. It's funny because I was just scrolling through the content on TV because we want to watch something, and dude, there's just so many apps and so much content, you just go crazy. I remember when Netflix would be announcing what's coming up in the next week, 2 weeks, months, or down the road, and now there are probably announcements, but I just don't get them. And every time I open up, there's just something brand new.
Just something new, yeah.
It's crazy. So 2 things. One, this has nothing to do with comics, but I didn't realize that the Mike Tyson fight is still happening.
Yeah, right. Got pushed back, right?
November 17th. So it's a
Okay.
Sunday, and it's going to be live on Netflix. Dude, I can't tell you how excited I am. I mean, he's what, 60 something years old now, and the guy that he's fighting, I forgot his name for the life of me. I can't remember.
One of the Pauls.
One of the Pauls.
It's either Jake or Logan. You have a
Yeah, I think it's
50%
Jake.
chance of getting it.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's either going to go really, really fast, or it's going to be really, really embarrassing. It's going to be one of the twos. I don't think it's going to go all the way. I think it's going to be one of those two where it's a really fast knockout, or on either end. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, as an old guy, I'm rooting for the old guy.
I am too, but dude, I mean, I see him training. He still has some power in him.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think, with the age difference, yeah, Jake is definitely a lot younger, probably stronger. It's probably blasphemous of me saying that, but I think just all those years of experience and still a solid punch. I don't know. I mean, it may be as fast as knockout ever now. We'll see.
Is it wrong for me to want Mike to bite this guy's ear off? I don't like these guys, so I just, I really would like to see that.
That's not a fetish that I would put out there.
It's not a fetish. I just, you know what? It's one of the look. Mike made good with it. Mike, even Evander, like they partnered. You know, Mike is big into cannabis.
Yep.
His own, whatever. He's got these gummies called Mike's Bites, and they're in the shape of Evander Holyfield's ear. And Evander Holyfield is like, yeah, let's make money off of this, buddy. Like, let's do it. You know.
Yeah.
So if Mike's good with it, then yes, this kid deserves.
And
it.
Evander's good with it. Evander's getting a piece of it. Oh,
well played.
All right, cool. All right, last but not least, just some movie news. This movie didn't release. I saw it. I want to watch it. I'm going to rent it. Usually new movies that come out on Apple TV or wherever you get it, Amazon or wherever you download, new movies that are still in the movie theater or just coming weeks out of the movie theater are usually about $19.99 to rent. So if it's a movie that I really, really want to watch, I'm going to bust my ass and go to the movie theaters because I want that experience. If it's something that's just like, you know what, I'll rent it for $19.99. It's cheaper because I got people in the household, and I can do $20 instead of $50 or $60 that it costs to go to the movies. So Hellboy, Crooked Man.
You got to see it?
No, not yet. I'm going to watch it, but it's weird because I came across it and I was expecting to pay $19.99.
Mm-hmm.
It's $6.99 to rent.
Wow.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Yeah. Now we were talking a little bit about it. You said this was probably the closest adaptation from print to screen.
From what I've heard, this is that crooked bloke or the crooked man story, just transported from comic to film. It's I don't know how much of a 1-to-1 adaptation it is, but it really what I have heard is that this is the comic on film, which is great. Like I pointed out last week, that Hellboy isn't the focus of it. He's just, all this weird stuff is going on. He just happens to wander into it. And then of course does have to help resolve it. But it's not about, he's going to bring about the doom of the world and he gets his horns and they're flaming and he's got to cut them off again. Like, it's not like he's not central to the story. So it's sort of like, the Murder, She Wrote with Hellboy, we'll say.
Yeah, but it looked cool. It looks scary as hell too. Mm-hmm. It deviates from the previous versions, which weren't bad. I mean, the original with Ron Perlman, those were great. I mean, there was a lot more. I think it was a little bit lighter. It had the comedy in it, and then it had whatever it was, and then you had what was the guy's name? But he was in Stranger Things. Yeah, David Harbour. Yeah. And that one went a little bit more on like the grotesque side. It pushed the envelope a little bit. That was definitely a hard R movie because I've never seen so much blood.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one. I know people weren't really psyched about it when it came out, including David Harbour. But in the couple years since it's been out, people have seemed to found like a newfound, like on rewatching and stuff. People this is actually not that bad. So I want to check that one out.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad movie. I mean, even Mila Jovovich. Yes, Jovovich. She's great. I mean, she was a good villain.
I
So
think I feel the very first one, that the Guillermo del Toro, Ron Perlman one. I feel that's a near perfect movie. I think it's a really good film. It borrows heavily from the comic, but gives you something new if you're familiar with that. The second one is very much a Guillermo del Toro movie. It is almost like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna make Pan's Labyrinth after this. Like, it's sort of like
that's
setting up that movie,
yes.
And so, and I know there are people who think that the second one is even better than the first. I'm okay with the second one, but I really do want to see this new one, and I do want to actually check out the David Harbour one, because I kind of held off on that one.
Yeah, check it out. I'm gonna check out this new one, but I'm gonna have to watch it with all the lights on because, yeah, I'm a big baby when it comes to stuff like that. All right, cool. So that's all the news that we have for you this week. We have reviews. We have comics from the week of 1023. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a go?
Yes. So the book I did this week, it is called The Sacred Damned. It is from Image Comic, and it is part of the little branding on the bottom here called the Horizon Experiment. So
Ooh.
I didn't know what this was, and then I realized a month ago a book called The Manchurian came out with that same branding. So I was like, oh, is this like a new universe? Are these all kind of connecting? So what's the deal with that? So I figured I'm going to dive in and give this one a shot, because this came out this week. And then right on the what's really cool is right on the inside front cover, you get the Horizon mission statement. So there is a writer named Pornsak Pichoshote. He's a Thai American editor who used to work at Vertigo for DC. And
Is it really Pornsak?
It's Pornsak, yeah, is his first name.
Like a sack of porn.
SAK. But
okay,
the other word is or the other half is spelled as you would expect.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's a Thai. He's Thai. It's a Thai American writer. He was an editor for Vertigo. He had a big hit with The Good Asian that won Eisner and Harvey Awards, and he's done a bunch of writing. And he's kind of been on my radar, but I haven't really read too much about him. But I definitely know what he does, right? And so this is something that he created. It was basically, I will just read this really quick before he wrote. Every creator was given a challenge: create a protagonist from a marginalized background set in a popular genre where if the background of your protagonist changed, so would your story. So these are 5 one-shots, all under the Horizon Experiment branding. So the one that came out last month, which was written by Mr. Pichoshote, was called The Manchurian, and it is about a Chinese James Bond. The elevator logline pitch for this one is a Muslim John Constantine. Then the other 3, just the elevator logline pitch is a family of werewolves with East African descent, an Evil Dead for black nerds, and a reverse Indiana Jones. So those are great concepts. I like the idea of weaving the cultural background into it, creating new characters, using people's experiences from how they have been raised. So I think that's a really neat idea. And I love the idea that there are 5 one-shots. And as he says, basically, based on sales, one or between one or all of these could become ongoing series or miniseries. So it's sort of like a pilot season in television, except what's really cool is the reader, the consumer, is the person who's going to pull the trigger and say, yeah, you know what? I want to see more of this, right? So I think it's a really cool way to try and get these new ideas, these new titles out there. I'm going to go back, check out The Manchurian, and I think I'm going to check out these other 3 because they're really interesting. There's a nice preview in the back for the 3rd book in this Horizon Experiment called Moondogs. There's one called Motherfucking Monsters, and then there's one called Finders Keepers. So yeah, these 5 one-shots coming out one a month. So this is the one for October, and is perfectly fitting. It is very spooky, as you can see, a little thing going on up there.
So is this the first one, or are there previous ones?
So again, each one is an issue 1, right? Each one is an introductory one-shot. So each month there's a new one, right? So in September there was The Manchurian.
Got you.
October is The Sacred Damned. Moondogs is November. Motherfucking Monsters is December. And then January gives us Finders Keepers.
Gotcha.
So each one is a one-shot. And then basically, as he pleads to the reader in that inside front page, it is up to the, if you like this book, if you like this one-shot, you go to your retailer, you go to your local comic shop and you say, hey, let's get more of these. You should order more of these and I'll try and sell these, or you tell people about these, sort of like, that's the sort of thing. It's sort of like, or you just go and you buy this and you're sending the message to your local retailer that this is something you might want to see more of.
Right.
And based on these sales, one or all of them could get a series or a mini out of it. So I think it's a really good idea. I really do. I like that they're taking that shot, right?
Gotcha.
So The Sacred Damned is really cool. It is very much a John Constantine Hellblazer type story. And your protagonist, the occult detective who comes in to sort of untie this knot, is presented with an air of moral ambiguity. But then you kind of get a little more layers as to why she is doing what she's doing and these choices that she is making. And the way it starts, though, is just like any sort of good detective story, right? You sort of get the person who is being affected, the person who is either the victim or the person who perpetrated the murder. You get their story, and it's a really cool way to start it because you basically have this guy who's like a college football star, and he was cursed as a young child, and now this curse is taking root, and he gradually gains weight. He sleep eats, right? People sleepwalk. This guy starts sleep eating, and he can't help himself. It gets to the point where he actually, in his sleep, and he's over 300 pounds now. He eats his girlfriend. Just eats his girlfriend in his sleep. So he's not aware of it, right? So that sort of sets up your story. That's like just within the first few pages, right? And so this guy needs the help of this occult detective who comes in, who has a personal connection with the demons that are haunting him. And it's really cool because the writer is Muslim. This character is Muslim. And the demons are the jinn, DJINN, right? And they can take various forms and they can do various things. This is sort of just a catch-all for, ghosts and spooks and demons and stuff like that. But to kind of put that background into it, and then how your protagonist, this doctor, also has been affected by these since birth, and what her long game is with these, how to deal with these and stop them from plaguing people, is really good. Is really just a really nice reveal, as well as the fact that you think that this guy is innocent, and yet she knows details about him, about why he is being plagued, even though it started when he was a young kid. How it just sort of knew this guy was going to do some rude things along the way, so that he sort of deserves his punishment as well. So it was really cool, dense one shot that read really quick, but not too quick. So I really felt satisfied with what was put out here. So I just do want to give credit where credit is due. It is written by, and of course the credits are towards the back. It is written by Sabir Pirzada. It is illustrated by Michael Walsh, who is an amazing artist and writer as well. He did the Silver Coin from Image a few years back. He's currently he's got one issue left of the 4-issue Universal Monsters Frankenstein mini that he's doing, which has been fantastic. Definitely grab that this Halloween season as well. And then colored by Tony Marie Griffin and Michael Walsh. Letters and designs by Becca Carey. And edited by Pornsak Pichochote and Will Dennis, who is an amazing editor for Image. So not only do I recommend checking out The Sacred Damned, because I think it was a really, really good pilot episode. Really good opening one shot. I would like to see more of this. Like I said, I'm going to go back, check out The Manchurian. That's the one that's about the Chinese James Bond. And I'm looking forward to checking the other 3 out.
Nice.
So not only do I recommend this book, I highly applaud them and recommend that people look into the Horizon Experiment. And I'd like to see publishers do more of this type of stuff. I think it's a really cool thing to do.
Now, did you find it to be a complete story? So if it didn't continue on?
It could absolutely continue on, but it was a great one and done as well.
Nice.
They definitely give you some threads, because again, the goal is for this to continue on.
Right.
But again, it was still a complete story in and of itself. So that if it was just like, like one half of an episode of an anthology or like, one half of an episode of Creepshow, I'd be happy with that,
Okay.
But again, there are definitely some tantalizing bits. Not the girlfriend's finger, which you definitely see as a tantalizing bit, but there are tantalizing bits to make you kind of want to keep going with this. And again, Michael Walsh's artwork is hands down just phenomenal.
That's crazy. All right, nice. So the Sacred Dam, Image Comics, check it out. Got a couple more one shots coming from these guys with the Horizon experiment. Speaking of Michael Walsh, Craig, guess what I read? Null Hunter, which is also by Michael Walsh.
Oh, get that! Look at that.
Yeah. So he did the cover. He's also the writer.
Right.
So written by Michael Walsh, art by Gustavo Vargas, letters by Becca Carey. And there's a flatter on here, which is crazy because I hardly ever see that as a credit. You got Laura Dragon for that. And then it's written by Michael Walsh, and he also did the cover, which is crazy. So in a nutshell, this is basically the retelling of the 12 labors of Hercules or Heracles, if depending on how you want to say it, which was, I like it. It's funny because it's a 12-issue miniseries. So I think each issue is going to be one of his labors. So I was being told sort of from like this dystopian future of a person that owns this company who has an estranged son. And it opens up really, really wild. I don't want to give away too much, but depending on what story you've heard or read about Hercules, this takes on probably more of the morbid side of what Hercules did after his 12 labors to his family. So yeah, it gets really dark in the very beginning. But there's a whole bunch of technology that's involved in here. And this guy's estranged father owns this company called Olympos. And so basically you have him in a cell after he's done what he's done, awakening, and he has no arms. So his arms are actually cybernetic, so they were taken away. So his father comes in and says, hey, gonna get you out of here. Got to do this. And he's like, F you this, F you that. But he just gets this big cybernetic upgrade. And they put him on his first mission where he takes out these a Nemean lion, which is like robotic. So there's the technology that these guys have owned, but it's an older part of the tech. And somebody's stolen it, and he's gone to retrieve it or to shut it down. And we see this fight at the end with the Nemean lion, and he rips it in half. So I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, the art in it is really, really cool. The color palette's probably similar to what you were seeing in your book, The Sacred One. But yeah, I mean, the panels, the writing, really fast paced, but it catches you up on kind of like who this guy is and what kind of relationship he has with his dad, and how they're pinpointing him to run these, labors, if you want to call them that. So yeah, listen, I'm probably not. This is probably going to be one of those things where I like to read it in full. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably wait for the trade to come out for 12 issues, so that you can see what the side by side would be to what the actual labors were that Heracles did to what's happening here. The only thing, and this is where it's not a gripe, but I think if there's not a hook that hooks you in other than cool looking art, or if there's not a hook in the story that wants you to come back for more, then with all the content that's out there, I'm gonna wait. But as much as he's doing, something's hitting somebody. Because Michael Walsh, we're already talking about him twice under the Image banner.
Yeah.
And I respect, and it wasn't bad by any means at all. It's actually a really interesting story. It's just there's no bite for me to say, okay, well, I'm really excited about the next issue. It's one of these wings where I could probably sit down in one sitting and read the entire trade and probably be amused with what they've done.
Yeah. I like that. That's how that's what you got out of it as far as, it's a great opening chapter, but it really feels like it should lend itself rather than just waiting month to month to just sit with this big epic, right? And it's funny what you said about because I looked at this book. I think I told you I flipped through it. I was like, oh, dystopian future, guys in complicated armor. I don't know. This doesn't seem like it's the thing. Not realizing what it was, but so knowing now what it is, that it's a retelling of the 12 labors, that really does interest me, even with the dystopic future setting, which is always an interesting milieu to put Hercules in. Marvel did it, Bob Layton did it with that version of Hercules, which is a really good miniseries from the early 80s. It's not necessarily retelling any myth, it's just taking that character, moving him from the 20th century to the far future. And the Marvel Hercules is always, he's a lot easier to digest than the mythical Hercules. He's a big brawly drinking guy. He's basically Thor of the movies, is who Hercules is in Marvel Comics. But this really does intrigue me. Now, in the story, is he the Hercules of myth, or is he like a stand-in? So he's sort of represent Hercules. He's kind of playing the role of Hercules, but he's not the demigod himself.
That is correct. Yeah.
So his father is a Zeus character who runs the Olympus company.
Correct.
And it says I saw in the title, it says an Olympus saga. But this is the first piece of the Olympus saga, as far as you could tell.
Right. So it's Olympus. Not Olympus. Yes. So it's the company saga.
So there's nothing that came that he didn't do anything that came before that would be part of this Olympus saga, as far as we know.
No. Yeah. As far as I know. So the story pretty much opens up with him having a nightmare about a war scene. And so he's having this nightmare. Fuck it, I'm just gonna say it. He's having this nightmare of killing people. Yeah. And then he has his son running towards him, screaming, "Mom, no."
Right.
Already killed the mother. Then kills the son, then wakes up. He did it. So he's having like this bad, which is basically what you have in one telling of a Hercules story, where he killed his family and then wanted repentance, and then he actually had to do the labors and stuff like that. So
I think that's something Marvel has never touched in their version of Hercules. I don't think the familial slaughter is part of that version of Hercules.
It's dark. It's really dark.
Too dark for Marvel, right?
But it's funny because it's such a I don't know. It's one of these things where it's life changing for someone, whether you're a demigod or just a regular being. That it was almost kind of passed over in the book, kind of like it went really quick. So there wasn't an emotional, because it happened. I think at the very beginning there wasn't this emotional connection to it. You could tell he was distraught and stuff, but and I think the pacing was well, but I think it brushed over like a really important part of who this person could be. But I think it's more about the retelling of the labors in this particular instance, rather than trying to dive into the character's psychosis or whatever it is, or how he's reacting to certain things. So for me, I'm always looking for that connection. If they can, connect me emotionally into the book, onto the character, or any one of the characters, then I'm tied in. This will be it'll be an entertaining read for myself. And it'll probably be like a masterclass on something that I can pull from, whether it's going to be storytelling or retelling of, mythical stories, how they've updated it for that instance. So yeah, check it out. I found it to be really, really cool. I mean, I like the art really well, and it was written really well, and the color palette. This creative team has got something solid. So I'm really looking forward to when the trade comes out. So Null Hunter. Check it out, people.
I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, that was the two books that we had for this week. It was a light week for us. I was looking at what was coming out next week. It looks like another light week, but there was a couple of books that I was interested in. So we'll definitely have something to talk about then, which would be really cool.
All right.
Yep. All right, again, that's the end of the show. So if you like what you heard, Yeah, subscribe to the podcast. Tell some friends. Come along. Every Monday we're here at 1:00 just talking about comics. If you're a creator and want to come on to the podcast and talk about yourself or a project that you have coming up, amazingactioncomics.com. Check that out. Fill out the form. John and I would love to have you on, talk about you and or your creative process and projects that you have coming up. Stay up to date on everything that we've got going on at amazingactioncomics.com. And please, 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 most importantly, support your local comic book shop, because we love those guys so much that we're there every week. Every week. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And, like I was saying before, one of the cool things about the Horizon experiment is that you, the customer, get to vote with your dollar, right? So when you go and you pick up a copy of The Manchurian, or if you pick up a copy of The Sacred Damned, you're letting the retailer know that's something that you want to see more of. And then of course those sales do go back to the publishers, the distributors of the publishers, so that the publishers know. So whenever you buy a comic, if you're you hear about these comics now selling out and they're automatically going to second and third printings, announced because day of sellouts are happening across the board now on some of these books. That's because of you. That's the power of you as the consumer. So go to your local comic shop. Again, we go to The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, but find yours near you and let your retailer know that you love comics, and let them know which comics you love by buying them, reading them, and enjoying them.
There you go, gang. You heard it from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, please be amazing, stay amazing, and read something amazing.